Do. We have Shakira Oswald. She is 2 hours ahead of us, and I just want to say thank you. Let me make sure that, um, do I see her? Do I not see her? Maybe I need to stop sharing. Let me see. Shakira, you're there. Hi, Shakira. We can hear you. Oh, there you
Hi,
are.
can you hear me?
Definitely can hear you now. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So Shakira is an early childhood educator in North Florida, and she is a parent of how many children?
6 kiddos, but 4 of them are still at home. 2 of them are out of the house and graduated college.
That's right. So you're the real deal, right? You're a good representation of what an educator is, being a parent and living through this pandemic. So Shakira, she's got a few things she wants to share with us. So without further ado, go for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Oswald. Thank you, fellow panelists, for having me tonight. I'm so honored to be here among such brilliant minds, and good evening, attendees. So listening to this webinar so far and really evaluating my role as a responsive adult to my kiddos in time of stress, I'm brought back to a phrase that I really try to live by in my classroom and in my home as well. And it's the phrase of not being a sage on the stage, meaning I don't have all the answers. I'm going to tell you how to live your life. I'm going to tell you how to respond in moments of stress, but more of being a guide on the side, really trying to avoid hovering and manipulating situations to come out to my kids' desired, outcomes. It's really not going to serve them or me if I try to fix all of their issues for them. Like Dr. Oswald said, there are such things as good stressors. So I try to let them know that a lot of the stress that they're experiencing, especially since they're still young kiddos, are often temporary. And if I'm really being honest, I have 3 teenagers at home. Sometimes it's self-imposed stress that they bring upon themselves. But even if the stresses that they're experiencing are not brought on by themselves, I try to create a home, much like my classroom, where they know it's a safe space. They can express their feelings. They can also know that they will always have their dad and I, their siblings, to be there as a support system, to have a place of overcoming. And sometimes stress can be crippling, and sometimes you just need a support system to bounce off of, and have and express those raw emotions and feelings. So much like in my classroom, I try to build that atmosphere that this is a place where you can make mistakes. This is a place where you can feel honestly. This is a place where we learn and we stand up from those mistakes, and how can we cope and have strategies in place to come out of those low places that sometimes stress can bring us to. So I really try to model my life as well, in a way to where they see how I experience stress. And I know we are the adults, but I'm 38 with these kiddos, and I am constantly unlearning, harmful practices that I was told as a child, or that I guess developed as an adult or as a parent. So I also want to encourage you guys as parents and adults that it's okay to unlearn things, even as an adult, and constantly learn and relearn new things that will help you to be better and help your kiddos to be better, because kids need examples. They thrive on routine. They thrive on real life experiences and watching how you deal with stresses. So that's really what I try to really practice, even with my own life, with my own kiddos. So like Dr. Oswald mentioned before, pumping the blood, the oxygen flow, seeking sun, and connecting with nature, these are all things in my household that have been put in a high priority, especially since the onset of the pandemic. We're a pretty athletic family. We're a big soccer family. So we are constantly on a field, we're constantly conditioning, but we to make some concerted efforts, because we really took the social distancing very seriously. We live in Florida, in the Panhandle, And our numbers and positivity percent is really high right now. Like actually as of last night, 19.2% in our county. I mean, it is staggering. So we were really staying home and really trying to encourage our kiddos to actively be outside in our yard, you know, in the neighborhood, walking. So we made it a priority that we ate lunch every single day outside picnic style. That was one way to connect with nature, to kind of relieve stresses. You know, online school is it's a whole ordeal. And, you know, my kiddos were experiencing Shakita, their mom, and also Shakita, the teacher. So they got a double whammy of stress. I'm stressed, they're stressed on a computer. So we were really trying to find ways and outlets to alleviate some of these stresses. We made a makeshift gym outside in our shed. We emptied out all of the stuff we were storing and we put free weights in there and some dumbbells and some, you know, the resistance bands so the kids could have their own private gym time. You know, kiddos love to put their AirPods in and kind of tune the world out and do their thing. So that was another thing that we did. We took lots of walks. We had a lot of healthy 3v3 family soccer games in the backyard. And I really enjoyed some grounding work, like really when I was super stressed, or if I saw that my kiddos were super stressed, I said, you know what, let's just take our shoes off and just go put our bare feet in the grass and just walk around outside in the pure sunshine for like 5 minutes. So even if we didn't have the time to take a walk or go for a jog or play a game outside, just even practicing that connecting with nature and taking time to move our bodies and get the blood flowing, that was something that was super important and really helped to alleviate stresses. It is so insane how stress manifests in your body. I can tell you as somebody who has experienced not the healthy positive doses of stress, but when I let it get to me, it has sent me to the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack and it was literally an anxiety attack. So these things, practicing these strategies and practices in place really can help trigger that positive stress, that stress relief, those endorphins that Dr. Oswald was talking about. They're so amazing and they don't cost money. That's the other thing. You know, we're in a pandemic. I know she was speaking on financial situations being different and hardships. Connecting with nature and moving your body are things you can do inside your house and don't cost any money, you know, or you can do them outside your house in your yard or around the block and doesn't cost a penny, but are so beneficial in relieving stress. So those are things that we really tried to concentrate on, especially during the pandemic. Seeing my kiddos when they're tense, it shows in their posture. I can see their shoulders scrunch up. I am really bad about clenching my jaw and grinding my teeth. My dentist tells me every 6 months when I come to visit him that it is something that I do subconsciously when I'm really, really stressed. And it is so insane the things that manifest in your body when you allow stress to become toxic and take over your life. Your skin can break out. I've seen hair fall out. I've seen, you know, your posture, your body, your muscle aches, the tension and how it rests. So really just, I mean, the simplest things that are here within reach to a lot of us are the things that I've really tried to lean on. Like the same thing I teach first grade. And when my kiddos, if I see them having a mental block or they're really struggling with something, and I'm like, you know what, let's just go take a walk to the coldest water fountain down the hall and get a cold drink of water. Water is like a miracle worker, just taking a water break, a cold water break. And it really helps to just kind of give you a minute to woost and, you know, let that stress kind of leave your body and come back to a good place where you can tackle the issues at hand. So those are just some things as a parent and as a teacher that I try to, you know, use, I guess, in a parallel in both environments that have really helped during such a stressful time worldwide. So I hope that it's encouraging to you guys, and I'm still learning and unlearning, so I encourage you to do the same thing. And thank you guys for having me and letting me share part of my story. Thank you, Dr. Oswald.
Thank you, Shakira. It's so good to hear all the tools that you gave us. I mean, so help me out. So definitely, I remember the floss. I'm very like, the last piece was, it's free. It can be the outdoor, it's having picnic, taking shoes off, feeling the grass. It sounds like almost like a family ritual, right? I think that was
Absolutely.
important. Yeah, it's a family ritual. And I think one of the biggest things that's happening to us is that we've kind of we lost a sense of the family ritual, the routines that we had. It was already a struggle to keep our routines because of work schedule and soccer and everything else that's coming at us. But now more than ever, we really need to find a routine. Help me out. So I just want to list, just in case our participants have paper and pencil and they kind of want to write down some of the really
Absolutely.
clever things that you've been doing with your family. Can you just gotta like
Yeah.
rename a few of them? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Sure. So we made a priority to try to eat a meal outside.
Meal outside.
Oh, just eating outside. The makeshift gym, and I know not everybody has equipment, but you can use anything. Bags of flour if you want to use those as free weights. Resistance band. Just going outside, doing some lunges against the house, planking, like you said, yoga in the sunshine. We played a lot of soccer. We have probably way too many soccer balls in our yard. So we did a lot of family 3v3 games where, we were challenging the kids, a lot of conditioning, a lot of jogs, a lot of walks, a lot of running. My favorite might be just when I became overwhelmed in a moment, or I saw the kiddos doing their online schoolwork and I could just tell like things were just tensing up. I'm like, you know what, let's go take a barefoot break. We're just going to take our shoes off. We're just going to go walk around outside, let our dog come follow us in the yard, and just like connect your body to nature in some way and just kind of take a breather. If they wanted to take their AirPods with them and listen to music and just kind of mow around the yard, we encourage that. So really that moving your body. Dance breaks. I didn't share
Oh,
that.
the dance breaks.
Yes, that is a huge thing in our house. Do all the time, but also in the classroom. I try to do that with my first graders, but taking a music break and literally putting on your favorite jams and just letting loose is like one of my favorite things to do to kind of just break away from a stressful moment. So I encourage you to cut loose in your house and have a
Yes.
for like 5 minutes, because it does such great things. The endorphins that are released in your body, just dancing and, listening to music. There's so much research and so many articles that support movement and the arts and dance and exercise in relation to brain health. So dance break.
Thank you, Shakira. And it sounds like you're also part of it. You just don't send the kids out to go play or have fun or walk or eat by themselves. You're actually part of it. So you're a role model. They're seeing you do this. You're part of it. So
Yes,
you're doing
absolutely.
fantastic. And I hope our participants found this information useful. I think I may just take a few too of your ideas and implement them at home, even though my kids are grown. They are moving soon, but let me do this a little bit to connect. It's a really good way to emotionally connect with your family and connect with your body and nature. So thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
I know it's late over there, so have a good night and hope to see you soon again.
All right. Have a great night, guys.
All right, so here we go. Let me share our presentation again. And so I hope you all found that helpful. And I forgot to mention at the beginning to go ahead and have paper and pencil or pen, just in case you found the information interesting and you wanted to revisit. But so where do you feel physically stressed? So like Shakira mentioned, you start feeling your shoulders, you start feeling your forehead. Sometimes it's in your eyes. For me, it's my jaw, I clench it. So kind of scan yourself right now. Give yourself a chance. We've been together for about an hour now, right? So give yourself a chance to notice. For me, it's maybe drinking water. Maybe you need a little drink water too. I talk about self-care, like if it was spraying a flower or a garden, right? So when we have the ability to take care of ourselves throughout the day, instead of waiting until you're dehydrated before you drink water, waiting until you're so tense to kind of try to relax, why not sprinkle yourself throughout the day with some of these scanning body scans? So let's check it out. Forehead, it's wrinkled, right? Between the eyebrows right here, right? Your eyes are sharp, they're wide, they're tense. Your jaw, where's your tongue? Right? I'm talking, so it's all over the place. But if I was you, I'll probably have the clenched jaw. What about your neck? Is it stiff? What's going on there? Look up, look down. Shoulders are pushed forward. Are they close to your earlobes? Sometimes we do this. How about if we don't? How about if we pull it back? Right, upper back, lower back, what's going on? So kind of get into the habit of checking your body. Do a little body scan every so often. The kids are gonna see you too. They're gonna see you're doing a little scan right now in your body, right? Increasing the awareness of how your body feels is very informative to you. Your body is always talking to you all the time. It may sound weird by me saying that by stepping away is feeling your body. Like, is it my neck? Is it my forehead? Your body's always saying something to you, just like your brain is always saying something to your body. And we'll talk about inner thoughts. The information given to you by your body helps you reset quicker, avoiding prolonged tension. That's what toxic stress stays with you for a long period of time. It's flooding all the chemicals through your body, putting certain organs in your body on overdrive. How about if you become aware of it and you catch yourself? That would be awesome. That's stepping away. Think about your thoughts. I've been very chatty lately. And what are you saying to yourself? All right. So your thoughts and actions are actually rooted from your emotional and physical stress, right? The more stress, either emotional or physical, whichever, sometimes there's both, more chatty I get in here. And what am I saying? What am I saying is going to come out through my mouth soon to other people. What I'm saying to myself is going to come out physically in my body as well. So catch yourself. A quick fix for positive stress is, well, the first step is being aware of positive stress and say, hi, stress, how are you? Nice to meet you. I know why I'm stressed, right? I'm going to learn from you, right? So the way I interact with what's happening at that moment. And also finding out where it felt. I had so much pain in my neck. It was crazy. I was like, I haven't done anything other than just, read and create these slides and kind of practice what I want to share with you tonight. And I just, my neck hurt. And so I became aware. I was like, you know what? I need to do something. And that was a quick fix. My breath, right? Breathing calmly. So check these two components, the awareness of it. How are you breathing? Relaxing your face, your jaw, your shoulder, and your back. We tend to kind of do it right here, right? Listening to our inner thoughts. What are you saying to yourself most of the time? I know it sounds crazy when I tell or I share this information with people and I say, well, what are you saying to yourself? Well, I don't talk to myself. That's crazy talk. No, we do. We actually have about 77,000 private thoughts per day. By now, you've had about who knows how many private thoughts in this webinar, and that's normal. You're supposed to. It's just being aware of what you're saying to yourself is the important part, because whether you are conscious of what you're saying to yourself or not, your body is listening. So positive stress improves us in many ways. It allows us to accept stress as part of life. Instead of resisting, we accept. When we accept, we easily build skills to navigate through it and learn from it, become stronger. It's important to balance fun, optimism, and stress. You take positive and proper perspectives about stress. Once you know that this is what's happening, this is why I feel stressed, right? So like Shakira had mentioned about relearning, unlearning some stuff and relearning new stuff, right? Something a little more tangible would be like a detour in the street. So now I need to learn a new traffic pattern to get back home, right? Maybe a little stressful, but I've been exposed to other stressors and I know this is positive stress. So I say, hi, stress, how are you? And there. Making sound and healthier choices. You don't feel so loss of control. You have more of a sense of control, right? You know what's happening. And so therefore you can make more decisions that make more sense because you are thinking with your prefrontal cortex, right? Which is the executive of you. And we'll talk about that part of the brain as well. on choosing healthy coping mechanisms. And we're going to talk about not healthy coping mechanisms, which is maladaptive behaviors. And you also get to acknowledge the silver linings of stress. So if it wasn't for this, I would have not learned that. If it wasn't because of that, I would have not been here. And so it improves us in overall. And that's for positive stress. A little bit more, the benefits of positive stress is it stimulates production of brain chemicals. It strengthens connections between neurons in the brain. So pretty much what that means is when we are exposed to repeated, so let me just read that because I'm getting all scrambled eggs right now, but repeated exposure makes future stress easier to manage. So what that means is that your brain is also forming patterns and schemas. And schema, what that is like a shortcut to learn something quicker and sooner and more effective. And so an example would be cooking a recipe and you're missing an ingredient. Can I substitute it for something else? Boom, there, I got it, right? So now I'm more likely to probably create new recipes based on this substitution of ingredients, right? We do more of what we repeat more of. And so for the last section of today's webinar, there's going to be a lot of invitations for you to join the movements and the breath work because you're more likely to repeat it, right? So one thing that I like to share with you is that I'm here delivering this information and just really in one or two modalities, right? You're listening to my voice and you're looking at the slides. Maybe you're looking at me sometimes, but really, to really learn something, you got to feel it, you got to do it, you got to practice it, right? We get to use our bodies. So like Shakira said earlier, was taking off your shoes or exercising, dance parties, right? So you're actually moving and getting involved by doing these exercises. So positive stress allows you to expose yourself to remember this a little better. It increases memory. I don't know about you, but when I get a little scrambled eggs, like I just did like 3 seconds ago, it was a stressful moment. I was like, oh, I'm losing. What was I going to say here? I wanted to say something important to them, right? And so I kind of say, oh, this has happened to me before. Let me just go back to the bullet point. That's why it's there. Let me use that skill so I can cope with that, stabilize, regulate, and boom, my memory went back up. And I was like, oh, this is what I wanted to say to you. The more you do that, the more you're going to find yourself remembering things better and having a better recollection. When we are disorganized and we're dysregulated, you can't even tell me what you had for lunch today. You can't even tell me what happened yesterday. You can't even remember what was last week, whatever happened last week, right? And so when we start realizing this is positive stress, we make more patterns, it makes sense. Our immune system gets boosted, right? We talked about that already. We learn to deal with positive stress that motivates us to succeed. It has psychological and physical sense of control because we know we have schemas built already about how to cope with this type of situation. So it's time for a brain break. And so this is a little more of a brain break. So here you're going to see we have an imaginary midline in the middle of our body. And so it's important to be able to cross that physically with our arm. So if like Simon says, right, Simon says, use your right arm to touch your left ear, and that crosses the midline section. So a brain break, let's, if you feel safe, you can stand. If you've been standing and you want to sit, you can sit, whatever it is, just make sure you feel safe, you feel comfortable. If you're not the only one watching, there's family members around you, you can get them involved. I invite you, what you practice and repeat, you do more of. So this is a good brain break. This is another tool that you can use throughout your day to kind of sprinkle water yourself like if you were a plant. So here we go. So you get to rub your hands together, make heat. Feel the heat. And you're going to gently place those hands on your face. My face feels really warm. Must be because I'm nervous. You're going to rest your hands next to you. You're going to gently turn your head to the left. Don't try too hard. You're going to turn to the right. All right. You want to look up. You're going to look down. Right. You're going to get your right hand. And I'm not going to be able to do it because I got the headphones. But what you're going to do is you're going to get your right hand. You're going to touch your left ear from the top. And you're going to gently rub your ear from top to bottom. And do that 3 times. So right hand, left ear. Rub your ear from top to bottom. 3 times. All right. And then you're going to turn to the left again. And what you're going to notice is you were able to turn your head a little further more to the left. And let's do it with the left hand. Left hand, right ear. Now you're going to rub from top to bottom. And do it 3 times. Left hand, right earlobe. Massage gently from the top to the bottom. You're going to rest your hand. You're going to look to the right. And you're going to notice that you're able to turn more to the right. And what that means is that you actually got some more blood circulating. You got your blood circulating the first round when we just turned our head up and down, side to side, up and down, and then we rubbed our ears, all right? It also made you think, which one is my right? Which one's my left? Right ear, right, left ear, what? Right, so it made you kind of like break away from what we've been doing for a while now, right? These are things that you can do with your family. You can do it with yourself, all right? It's called a brain break because that's what it is. You're involved, a brain break. Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm gonna take a brain break. Let me go read the news. I'm gonna take a brain break. Let me go scroll through social media, right? That's still activating you. That's still not really allowing you to reconnect with yourself and understand that I'm breathing, I'm getting blood circulation going this way and that way. You also, like Shakira said, you get some movement going on, pump up a little bit of endorphins in your body. I also invite you during this time, if you haven't had a chance to get something to drink, I'm going to have a sip of my tea. All right, we're going to carry on. Tolerable stress is the second to the 3 stresses that we're going to talk about. Now, tolerable stress, it is short-lived, but it's more profound. It's a little more, it's more profound. It's a different level of stress. It's not like riding your bike or learning a new way to get back home or moving to a different state like me. It's exposure to non-normative experiences of greater adversaries or threat. So the death of a family member, that's tolerable stress. It is short-lived because time does heal. But it changes the way you live. And I think that's the difference, one of the main difference between positive stress and tolerable stress, you know, especially if the children are young and they lost their parents or one of the parents. So we have a serious illness or injury, and that's tolerable stress as well. Breaking your leg and being on a leg brace for a while, that changes the way you live as well. Serious illness. My daughter was diagnosed with her first autoimmune disease when she was 12 years old. And that really changed the way we lived and the way we thought about life and how vulnerable we felt with our health. And then her second autoimmune disease was diagnosed when she was 15. And then her third one was diagnosed right before she turned 19. And so you can talk about almost like trauma, right? It's like a line right before we start saying it's a traumatic experience. Without the help and support of caregivers, that can become a traumatic experience, right? And natural disasters, fires, right? Earthquakes. You got Florida using kayaks to get around because they're flooded. Hurricanes. We got Nicaragua was the most recent hurricane got hit. So those are tolerable stress because you have to change the way you live for a while. So now we're going to dive into toxic stress. So toxic stress is not so common, or is it? Question mark. Toxic stress is actually prolonged exposure to adversity. It causes you to alter the way you live and interact over a long period of time. So you can see the keyword here is it's changing the way you live, the way you interact, and it's over a long period of time, and it's layered up, so it's many stressors. It causes the fight or flight response to overwork. And pretty much what fight or flight response means is your alarm system of detecting threat. And we're going to kind of dive into that and what happens to the brain when we detect something threatening. The brain really doesn't know that stress or toxic stress at this point could be unemployment and COVID-19 and fires. What the brain detects is a threat, like a bear is chasing you. And I'm going to use the big bear or the tiger or the lion as a metaphor of what stress is, because the brain doesn't know the difference. It knows that it's life-threatening and get out of the way, either fight it or run from it. All right. So our stress response remains activated, overproducing chemicals. And when we overproduce these chemicals, which is cortisol and adrenaline, we tend to not be our highest self. And so we can easily fall into this vicious cycle. When we have toxic stress running through our brain and our body, our prefrontal cortex, which is the executive view, is hijacked. We don't think logically. We're just completely emotional, and we're just acting and being reactive, all right? So for right now, collective trauma is the sole contributor to our current state of toxic stress. It's been 8 or 9 months of high stress, of major changes, constantly trying to figure out which way are we going to be doing this today, and are we shutting down again, or do we shut down? Do I wear my mask 6 feet apart? Do I not wear it if I'm more than 6 feet apart? Unknown expectations. When we have unknown expectations, our self-esteem drops because we don't feel safe. The ups and downs, right? So we got a vaccine. Oh, we don't have a vaccine yet. It's going to happen. How long before we can actually get it? It's jeopardizing our health. We don't know if we do catch COVID, are we going to be the ones that are fine with it and not have complications, or do we have issues that are prolonged or causing death? The social disengagement is really hurting us psychologically. We're humans of socialization. We need other people, even the introverts. I've spoken to a lot of my friends, and they're introverts, and they're like, oh boy, I'm never saying no again to an invitation. This is terrible, right? And so this is really hurting us, guys. And so one of the main reasons for this webinar is to let you know that you're not alone. We're all dealing with these stressors the best we can. And sometimes the best we can is not enough. You deserve better. And so I'm hoping that by the end of this webinar, you have been writing down or acknowledging some stuff that you would like to take with you tonight as your tools to combat crisis fatigue and remove yourself from toxic stress and remove your family from toxic stress as well. So if you have not visited this website, I highly recommend you do. It's Harvard University, the Center on the Developing Child. They have easy reads, they have videos, and this particular video talks about toxic stress and how it impacts brain development. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I will do my best to make sure you can see it and hear it.
Learning to deal with stress is an important part of healthy development. When experiencing stress, the stress response system is activated.
It's
the
not?
body and
Okay.
brain go on alert. There's an adrenaline rush.
So guess what? I need to share my screen correctly. All right, hold on. Let's see. Let's try this again. All right, let me see. I'm getting a thumbs down from Emily. Emily. Hold on. I'm gonna get this done. We're gonna get this done. This is positive stress, by the way. This is what positive stress looks like, guys. All right, let's share the screen. See if I'm doing this correctly this time.
Increased heart rate and an increase in
All right, let's do the beginning of this. Here we go. We got thumbs up. That's awesome.
Learning to deal with stress is an important part of healthy development. When experiencing stress, the stress response system is activated. The body and brain go on alert. There's an adrenaline rush, increased heart rate, and an increase in stress hormone levels. When the stress is relieved after a short time, or a young child receives support from caring adults, the stress response winds down and the body quickly returns to normal. In severe situations, such as ongoing abuse and neglect, where there is no caring adult to act as a buffer against the stress response stays activated. Even when there is no apparent physical harm, the extended absence of response from adults can activate the stress response system. Constant activation of the stress response overloads developing systems, with serious, lifelong consequences for the child. This is known as toxic stress. Over time, this results in a stress response system set permanently on high alert. In the areas of the brain dedicated to learning and reasoning, the neural connections that comprise brain architecture are weaker and fewer in number. Science shows that the prolonged activation of stress hormones in early childhood can actually reduce neural connections in these important areas of the brain at just the time when they should be growing new ones. Toxic stress can be avoided if we ensure that the environments in which children grow and develop are nurturing, stable, and engaging.
All right, good. So I hope you enjoyed that video. And for children, it's called toxic stress because it actually changes the architecture of the brain. For adults, it's referred as chronic stress. And you can see the difference between stress, positive stress, tolerable stress, and then toxic stress is that it doesn't get alleviated. And it's important for toxic stress to be alleviated in our children as we serve them as a protective factor. So what does toxic stress do in our body? Well, guess what? You overproduce cortisol. And what does that mean for our bodies? Well, it triggers sugar, right? It triggers sugar in your bloodstream and inhibits insulin production. What insulin does, it actually uses sugar as a form of energy. But in this case, your brain says you have to run from that big bear. And so what it does is that it shoots up sugar to get you going, right? And narrows the arteries and increases your epinephrine, making your heart race. Because the faster your heart races, the more blood you get flowing into your extremities so you can punch and run and jump from this bear trying to chase you. It's meant to reduce inflammation. So cortisol is actually good for you. It's meant to reduce inflammations. Remember at the beginning when we talked about positive stress, it serves you as a protective factor because it helps you recover from injury sooner. But it turns against you if the levels are too high. And because toxic stress, that's exactly what it's doing. It's suppressing our immune system. So you notice that sometimes when you are really, really stressed and you've been there for a long period of time, Shakira had mentioned to a point where she ended up going to the hospital having a panic attack. She thought she was having a heart attack. This is exactly what we're talking about. And maybe, hopefully, luckily, none of us are going to reach that to that level. But what it does is that it makes your body feel like you are being chased by a bear and you must run away, right? And then we get sick. We get physically ill. It seems like sometimes we have the flu. We have headaches, and I'll give you a list of what it looks like in your body. And many of you are going to have like check mark, check mark, check mark, and hopefully we'll get that back into regulation. But so when we talk about cortisol, this is what happens. How about your digestive problems, right? So when you are running away from a bear or a tiger or a lion, you do not need to be digesting any food because that's not a priority, all right? So when you eat, you actually get a little slower, right? España, Spain, and the king and queen of siesta, right? We know better. We know that when we eat, we're going to slow down. We're going to just relax, take a nap. So when we're in toxic stress, your digestive system is not working properly. It is not a priority at this point. In fact, digestion is going to slow you down and you're not going to be able to run away from that bear, that tiger. You also overproduce adrenaline. And adrenaline is kind of interesting. It makes you feel euphoric. It makes you feel like you can actually move the mountain, right? You can actually punch that bear in the face and run away. So what it does, adrenaline makes your heart rate faster. It shoots blood to your big muscles so you can run away from that bear. The blood flow is directly mainly to big muscles to help you survive. That explains why sometimes we lose control of our bladder We can say that it was so scary we almost peed ourselves. Airways open so you can intake as much oxygen as you can possibly can, because you're going to need it. You're running, you're hiding, you're punching. It raises the blood pressure because you need it to run and jump from the bear. Remember that bear? So it converts fats to sugar for energy. And so what that means is that although adrenaline, we like it, right? We call adrenaline junkie. You get all this euphoric feeling. You can do anything that you want to do. It's actually hijacking your prefrontal cortex, because if you slow down and you realize that you're probably not going to win that fight with that bear, chances are you're not going to do it. And so when we are pumped up with cortisone and adrenaline, we're really not thinking, because if we did, we wouldn't be in survival mode, right? So the importance between the big bad bear or the big bad lion is that there isn't one. You're not running away from anything. You don't need all this cortisone. You don't need all this adrenaline. You're sitting on your couch. Your body's craving more sugar and carbohydrates food. I know I have. I won't stop until I see the bottom of that ice cream tub. I'm not going to stop. And sometimes I catch myself and I say, "Ooh, I'm in trouble. This is way too much. I had a pizza, ice cream. I'm like a 5-year-old kid at a birthday party," right? Your body's asking you for this. And it's because it's thinking that it needs a lot of sugar because you need all this energy. And guess what? When we don't use it, it becomes fat in our body. And you can see your body changing. My body has changed because you cannot disconnect your emotional state from your body. And you can disconnect your body from your emotional state. We're in it together. Before I go there, I actually really wanted to share this with you. So it says, over time, repeated activation of the stress response takes a toll on your body, right? Chronic stress, which is what is happening to us as adults, and for children, it's more toxic stress because it's really changing the architecture of their brain, contributes to high blood pressure. It promotes the formation of artery clogging deposits, right? So it increases your chances for stroke and heart attack. It causes brain changes that contributes to anxiety and depression and even addiction. And we'll talk about maladaptive behaviors when we talk about addiction. Chronic stress also contributes to obesity, because we are eating more sugar, more carbohydrates, and more fatty foods, and we're sleeping less and we're exercising less. So it's all getting deposited and not being used the way it's supposed to be. We're going to talk about the parasympathetic system and what that does for us. Just a little quick view of that is parasympathetic system is like the brake system in your vehicle, right? You got to press it sometimes to slow down. Well, that's what's happening to us. We're in the sympathetic system. Sympathetic system is that accelerator. You're boom, boom, boom all the time. You're not balancing it between the accelerator and the brake in your vehicle, all right? That's all I'm going to say about that, because there's going to be a lot more about the parasympathetic system. So let's get going. So here are some of the signs of toxic stress. So you have headaches, yes, check mark. Upset stomach, check mark. Chest pain, check mark. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I take a deep breath, I'm like, chest hurts. Maybe I'm having a heart attack. I don't know. You feel your heart beating, especially when we do our brain breaks and I ask you to kind of like put your hand on your belly and the other hand on your chest, and you kind of slow down. You feel your heart and you're like, it's going fast. Insomnia, right? Nightmares. At the beginning in March, I started reading the news almost every night to go to bed. I don't know why I did that, but I did that. And I know you were doing it too. And then started incorporating those, that news that I was reading into my dreams, and it became nightmares, right? My brain was trying to organize what was happening to us as a nation, as a human race, all right? We can have decreased appetite sometimes. We can binge eat sometimes, maybe all the time, both, combination. We have anxiety, lack of attention, can't focus. We feel very disorganized, right? Wake up and it's kind of like, well, what was I going to do today? Where am I going? Especially when we're on lockdown at the beginning, right? It was like real sense of disorganization. You forget, limited memory. You're easily irritated, right? Emotional overreactions to minor incidents like spilled milk. Social isolation, just like depression, unwillingness to participate, The foggy brain, that's a one that really I could go into thoroughly, but I'm not. But foggy brain is actually almost a condition, and it's fueled by sugar. So the overconsumption of carbohydrates and sugar and not using it, right? So not exercising, gives us foggy brain. And so what that means is that you lose your train of thought, you're very disoriented, you don't know what you're going to say next, you don't know what you're going to do next. So the list goes on. I just named a few, and I know that right now you're looking at it and you're like, check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. You're not alone. Brain break, how appropriate. All right, so for this brain break, we're actually gonna ask you to please stand up and walk away from me for a little bit. You're gonna walk away from your device, you're gonna hydrate, you're gonna come back, and underneath, if you move your cursor, you're going to see you have the little raise your hand. So you can kind of raise your hand, and I know you're back. So you can go ahead and do that, take a few steps away, walk away, hydrate, come back. About 2 minutes. I'm going to try to time you in 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to assume you're back. I'm going to see your raised hand, and then we're going to do the little snap, snap with our fingers. All right, I have one person raising their hand already. Thank you for coming back. Got a few more. We are coming back, guys. I'm not alone after all. This is good. All right, a few of you are raising your hand. You're coming back. Be gentle with yourself. Make sure you stretch a little bit. Got more hands being raised. Awesome. All right, we got about 45 seconds. Thank you for raising your hand. We are done with our 2-minute hydration. Again, this is another skill that you have with you now. You become a little aware. I've been here long enough sitting, been here long enough listening to her. Let me walk away, drink some water, a little brain break. Here we go. So we're going to use our right hand, and we're going to snap our fingers while we're blinking in the opposite side, right? So we're going to blink our left eye while we snap on the right hand. So let's try it. Right, now we're going to use our left hand, and we're going to snap the opposite side of the eye, right? We're going to snap with our left and blink with our right. So you ready? All right, remember I told you the brain is pattern syncing. So let's do this 3 times. You ready? Get set, go. Awesome. Now you get to do this again, but you're going to create a pattern yourself, all right? So you can choose to do twice. So whatever you do on one side, make sure you do it on the other. All right, so if you do 3 times on one side, make sure you do 3 times on the other side. So go ahead and create a pattern. I'm going to create my own. I think I'm going to choose, I'm going to do 4. How many of you were able to do it, right? So I know the first time I introduced this brain break, sometimes we do the same eye, or we forget to blink, right? Or like Oh yeah, I forgot to blink. So you can see why it's a brain break. You're again connecting with your body. You're consciously thinking about only that. So you lower your racing thoughts. You lower the tension around your body because now the tension is it my left eye with my right hand? Is it my right eye with my left hand? Right? So you got to think about that. And that's why it's called brain break. Our brain is constantly scanning the environment for stimulants, right? Something like squirrel, right? Oh, what is that? An airplane, what's that, right? We're constantly looking at our environment. We're constantly picking up information, right? We're walking down the street, the dog is barking, a bird just flew, right? We gotta look at the cars before we cross the street. And so many things are demanding our attention that we forget to kind of come back to ourselves. So have fun with this. Also for little children, they have fun. The fact that they can snap their finger, they can blink their eye. This is a way to connect emotionally with your children and be playful, right? It's a playful moment with your children. I hope you enjoy that brain break. Jot it down. I think it's fun. You can create all sorts of patterns with the snapping and the blinking. All right, this is my girl right here, Nadine Brooke Harris. And she wrote this book, The Deepest Well. I absolutely admire her work. She reignited a research back in the 1980s that made a connection between early childhood adversaries and having health issues, having weird health issues at an early age, right? So it seemed like they were perfectly fine, and then they started developing weird cancers, heart conditions, autoimmune diseases are really, really rare. And what the research discovered is that our early childhood experiences has a lot to do with that. So just like the video that you watched in Developing the Child from Harvard University, this book kind of dives into the work, and I'm halfway through, and I can tell you, again, I don't mind being vulnerable. I am one of these children where I had to endure a lot of toxic stress. And I'm an example of how we can kind of rewire our environment and the way we interact with stress to learn from it and use it to our benefit as resiliency. And so do not be afraid that your children are living through a very stressful time. We're lifting each other, and you're going to do the best that you can do for yourself so you can help your children. This video here is going to simplify the complexity of the study and the implication that it has for our health and well-being. I'm going to try to share this video along with the sound so you can hear it. That's beneficial when you can see a video and hear it, right? So let's see if I work this. Do I get a thumbs up, Emily? Thumbs down. Oh man, can't see it. What am I doing wrong, guys? All right, hold on. All right, let's go back to, I feel like such a novice. All right, let's try this again. One day I'm gonna learn how to do this correctly.
Developing brain.
All right, I'm gonna make it larger for you guys. There we go.
A child's experiences early in life are important building blocks for the developing brain. Genes, nature, are like the blueprint. They provide the basic framework for brain development. However, genes do not design the brain completely. Environmental influences, nurture, fine-tune how the brain works by shaping which brain connections get used. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, whereas ones that do not get much use fade away. Together, genes and the environment build the foundation for all future development. Safe, stable, and nurturing relationships early in life lead to healthy development. But children's brains capture other experiences as well. Stressful events. However, not all stress is bad. Positive stress involves normal childhood experiences, like starting daycare or meeting a new person for the first time. This stress is essential for healthy development because it helps children develop coping skills and confidence. But when stress is frequent, chronic, and uncontrolled, it is toxic to children, especially when they do not have a caregiver to provide support or buffer the stress. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, such as abuse, neglect, exposure to intimate partner violence, parental depression or addiction, and poverty are toxic stressors which could lead to lifelong changes in learning and behavior. ACEs early in development can impact social, emotional, and cognitive functioning, increased risk-taking behavior such as drinking and substance use, and increased risk of disease, disability, and social problems later in life. The question is, how do adverse childhood experiences impact a lifelong development? One of the most important systems in our body is our stress system. It's activated when we experience stress. We become alert, our heart rate increases, and so do our stress hormone levels, cortisol and adrenaline. Our body is ready to react, what is known as fight or flight. A short period of time after the stress is over, or if a child receives support from a caregiver, the stress response turns off and the body returns to a normal state. Adverse childhood experiences create stress responses that stay active, and without the support of a caregiver, the system has difficulty shutting off completely. This constant and prolonged activation can affect immune system functioning and increase the chances of sickness, infection, and disease. Prolonged activation of stress hormones is also toxic to the brain. Certain areas of the brain are more vulnerable to toxic stress, including the executive center or the brain's control center, an area important for solving complex problems, attention, reasoning, impulsivity, inhibition, and learning. A second area is the emotional center, the brain's alarm system, which is involved in processing and interpreting emotions and the ability to control impulses. The third area is the memory and learning center, the brain's filing cabinet, which plays a major role in learning and the formation and retrieval of memories. Science shows that adverse childhood experiences impact all of these brain centers. Behaviorally, what we begin to see is emotional distress, poor emotion regulation, greater impulsivity, learning difficulties, and physical and mental health problems. More recently, science has begun to look at how ACEs cause changes in gene expression through a process called epigenetics, which helps us understand how nature and nurture interact. Epigenetics causes changes in the way genes work without changing the DNA code itself. This occurs through chemical changes influencing how the code is used. In other words, genes are like the hardware in a computer. They determine the boundaries of what is possible. However, we need an operating system to tell the hardware what to do. Epigenetics is like the operating system directing the function of a gene's DNA hardware. The genes we are born with are the genes that we have for life, but experiences like nutrition, exercise, smoking, stressors, and relationships all affect our biology. Adverse childhood experiences are associated with epigenetic changes related to stress, brain development, cognition, and systems associated with mental and physical health. Changes that happen early in brain development are more likely to be enduring and are possibly passed on to future generations as well. The good news is that positive, supportive relationships at any stage in life can make a difference. However, supporting families and children early on will help prevent many of these negative outcomes. One of the key ingredients for healthy development is having warm, loving, and actively engaged caregivers. This involves promoting serve and return interactions, where caregivers actively and warmly engage with the child, making eye contact, responding to sounds, words, gestures, emotional needs, and sharing experiences like reading and play. Providing programs that support caregivers to strengthen these abilities are the blocks that build healthy foundations for life.
Did that. Awesome. And so you can see how the video emphasized a caring adult and how adult can alleviate toxic stress and making you aware of what elements in life can create toxicity for ourselves and for our children. You can see that your care, meeting your needs, is not negotiable. We got to take care of ourselves first before we can take take care of our children. We often feel that our job is to take care of our children all the time, and we neglect ourselves. And what we don't realize is that not only are they watching us not taking care of ourselves, we are depleting whatever's left in us. And it affects the way we care for our children. So the bear's in the cave, guys. The bear's not leaving, right? Not for any time soon. It's here. So it's up to you to decide how you want to do this. How do you want to interact with this bear? And how do you want to use these experiences to your advantage to learn from them? You're here because you are done. You're here because you are fatigued. And I'm fatigued. It's weary. It's been a long 8-9 months. We are done with this. And now we're ready to encounter the bear and realize that it's called toxic stress because our brain does not know the difference from one to the other. And now you have the tools. You're going to collect more tools in the next section. And let me see. Yeah. So here, this section is the last and final part of our webinar today. And I was really trying to figure out what title to give it. And I was like, no, it's exactly this. It's Rescue Yourself and the Family from Toxic Stress. I can't come up with any other name but this, because this is what we're doing today. You've paid your dues. You've been in survival mode, and it's time to heal. It's time to get it together for yourself and for your children, and we're ready to thrive in 2021. So welcome to the last and final part of our webinar, Rescue Yourself and the Family from Toxic Stress. And so what are we going to learn here today? This is where you're going to learn here today. You're going to learn the importance of addressing stress and trauma in healthy ways. So we're going to talk about maladaptive behaviors and why we do that, because we're using the tools that we have, right? We're going to talk about reinforcing secure attachments with your children, because we are their protective factor. Not only are you their protective factor, but you're parenting yourself as we get along. I feel my kids are 21 and 18. I still feel like I'm parenting myself so I can parent them still, right? It's a never-ending job. The importance of breathing and posture. We're going to talk about power posture, right? We're going to talk about breath work. We're going to talk about the importance of mirror neurons and the role that it plays in learning, especially for children. Children are constantly picking up on that parenting antenna, and I'm going to explain what parenting antenna is. So the importance of addressing stress and trauma is this. We develop coping mechanisms that may not be so healthy, right? And sometimes we don't realize that it's not a healthy choice. Sometimes we're socially, we're like, yeah, I'll do this and I'll cope with it, right? Get the edge off. And so there's a name for it. So these coping mechanisms that are not so healthy, they're called maladaptive behaviors, right? And maladaptive behaviors looks like abusing drugs and alcohol. And we use these behaviors to alleviate, and it is alleviating temporarily the pain of the stress and the trauma, but it doesn't address the problem. So it's like treating the symptoms, but not in a healthy way either, right? And it's become a social thing also. I'm like, oh, it's been a stressful day. Let me have a glass of wine. It's been a stressful day. Let me go ahead and have I don't know, whiskey or whatever. So it's socially accepted. However, the key word is abuse. And I've been reading the news, as you know, right? I had to delete the app yesterday, but what I was finding a trend was that the sales of alcohol and drugs are up, right? People are buying more of it and they're not storing it. I know that they're using it. And so we got to be careful, guys. That's not healthy for your bodies. Not saying that you are, but there is a trend out there. The sales are up, and this is called maladaptive behavior. So maladaptive behavior is to avoid controlling the discomfort of adverse situation. We don't like discomfort. That's what stress is, right? We're like, we don't want to have stressed life. I don't want to be stressed, right? It's because it's uncomfortable. But when we're talking about this type of level of stress and trauma, we're going to have to face that bear, right? And by kind of escaping it with maladaptive behaviors is not treating the root of the problem. Maladaptive behaviors is a way of unwillingly to adjust to a new situation, kind of escape, right? Which is a stress response. It treats only the symptoms of the stress, and it prevents us from actually treating the problems from the root. And we'll talk a little more about what that means. So let's talk about the brain being pattern seeking. We talked about family rituals and routines. We've been kind of like stripped from that, right? All these changes and all the stresses and constantly trying to either making ends meet or trying to make sense of what's happening out there with whatever level of stress that is happening. It's a 2020 moment. I think that next year, looking back, hopefully we'll say, oh, that was such a 2020 moment, right? And so when we are addressing trauma from the root, we are consciously making decisions that creates patterns in our life, right? And when we allow patterns to develop that are healthy in our life, we tend to stick more to our schedules, which gives us a sense of meaning and purpose throughout our life. The children are seeing that as well. They end up having a sense of meaning and purpose throughout their day as well. So the routines, family rituals. One of the things that I really found struggling was finding a pattern in my day working remotely from home. And so I had to figure out, I have to go to bed at a certain time. That's one of the routines I had to start again. Some of the rituals that I did, some rituals and routines are different. So when we talk about rituals, it's actually something special that you do with your family. Like Shakira mentioned, taking a time off during the day and having a picnic outside and being barefoot and feeling the grass between your toes, right? That's a family ritual. That separates your family special time from other family special time. For my daughters and I is getting coffee, going to yoga, hiking together, or sometimes just, starting the fireplace and just hanging out together in the living room, right? It's a family ritual. It's important for you to start thinking, do we have pattern-seeking behaviors in this home? Does my family have any pattern-seeking behaviors to look forward to? We get to be very scattered, and it's like a vicious cycle. You don't even realize that you're dysregulated. And if you're dysregulated, guess who else is dysregulated, right? So that's the first thing to address here. The second thing is the connections that we're making on the outside are the neural connections that we're making inside your head, right? So what this means is the connections that we're making. So now let's say we have a pattern in place, right, in our lives. The connections that we're making on the outside could be like, I know that by 11:30, we're going to have our sandwiches outside sitting underneath the tree. Or I know that we're going to have a blanket in the living room. We're going to sit on the blanket and have our sandwiches, right? This looks something similar in the classroom, like circle time, right? So you get to be present in the moment with your family. The children are making these connections on the outside, and they're making these neural connections on the inside of what it feels to be belong and love, being seen and heard by the adults that surround you, and vice versa. You're making these connections of making these memories with your children, and you yourself are connecting and reconnecting yourself. See, what happened to me with this bullet point in particular of the connections I was making on the outside or the connections I was making on the inside was the news, the social media. I was swamping my brain so much with the outside factors that I was already rewiring myself to think like that and be very pessimistic. So what about yours? What are the connections you're making outside that are the neural connections that are building in the inside of your brain? All right, so this comes through interpersonal connections, role modeling, and we're definitely going to talk about mirror neurons, but to give you a quick view of what mirror neurons looks like is that whatever I witness, whatever I see someone else doing, a behavior that they're engaged in, my body is going to feel it. I'm going to interpret it like if it was mine. An example would be someone yawning. I see someone yawn, chances are, I'm going to yawn as well. Did you yawn just now? It's a sympathetic yawn, and that's mirror neurons. So when we're building these connections on the outside to build neural connections on the inside, mirror neurons is really high up. Mirror neurons is actually a fascinating way how we learn social complex behaviors. All right. The third one is the more we repeat behaviors, the more likely they are repeated. All right. So it's almost like what you focus more on, you get more of. So if I'm more likely to repeat my patterns, right? So let's just kind of stick to what Shakira mentioned as a tool. So having lunch outside, we're more likely to repeat that. And our clock, our internal clock says, hey, it's 11:25. We should be getting ready for this moment, right? And that gives us a sense of control, right? It organizes us. It starts building these neural connections on the inside, is what we're doing on the outside with our families. Synaptic connections strengthen the repetition, right? So we call rehearsal neurons. So the more that you engage in a certain type of behavior, the more likely you will be engaged repeating that behavior. For me, necessarily, is standing. I really don't like sitting, and sometimes it's weird because, for example, now typically I would be sitting in front of the computer just talking to you, but I had to make sure that I had space to walk around. My brain is always asking me to move around, right? Because this is how I speak. This is how I learn information. So for me to repeat the information that I have in my brain, I have to kind of repeat what I've been doing to remember this information and deliver it to you. What behaviors are you repeating that you're more likely repeating already in your life? So how to reduce toxic stress in your child's life? You are the key to your child's well-being. If you take care of you, you're taking care of your children. Self-care plays an important role in how well you parent yourself and how well you can parent your children. Children are always observing the ways you handle stress and manage behavior. It's mirror neurons, all right? So how do we begin reducing toxic stress? With you. Remember when I said about lending calmness? You gotta have it first. Lending emotional connection, you must have it first. If you don't have it, be aware of it and say, I don't have it. How do I get to calmness? How do I get to emotional connection? When a child's needs, this is pretty important. When a child needs collide with their parents' need, the needs of the adults take precedence because we are incapable of meeting other people's needs until we meet our own. Right? So a child has needs, you have needs that have not been met, and they collide, right? An example would be like, I don't have time for you. You're crying. You have nothing to be upset about. I'm trying to make a living here. We're working from home now. Be quiet and sit down, right? My needs are not met. I'm not going to meet my child's needs. So little flag comes up and you say, oh, I just said that. I must need a brain break. I need to step away because my child needs me, but I need me first before I can serve my child. Taking care of yourself first so you can take care of others is number one. When we have safety, we ensure trust. My response earlier is saying, stop crying, I'm trying to make a living, go away, right? That's not safety. So I'll have to first secure safety to ensure trust. My child now knows that I'm probably not very trustworthy right now, right? They don't know much, right? But as soon as I become aware and I say, I hear you, it sounds like you are having a difficult time. Give me about 3 minutes. In the meantime, we can hold hands, oxytocin. Oxytocin is a love hormone, by the way. When we have touch, the child says, okay, I'm gonna wait 3 more minutes here, right? Hold my hand, let me finish this. Mama's got a client or gotta finish whatever I'm doing here. And then you make sure, because that's what trust is, to be able to keep your word and say, all right, 3 minutes are up. How can I help you? It sounds like you're having a hard time. When we meet again on December 2nd for coaching emotion, we're going to talk more about that, about turning into my emotion, turning into their emotion, right? So as soon as we have trust, we guarantee optimized learning experiences. The child says, boom, this is what it looks like. She held my hand or he held my hand until they had the time. And now they've turned, they're making eye contact, they're present, they're here to help me get through whatever difficulty it is. It could be that, I don't know, they can't get on their iPad, or it could be that they just need your attention for a minute. It could be that they spilled water in the kitchen, right? So as soon as we do this, safety and trusting relationships fosters emotional connection. You're more willing to be vulnerable. You're more willing to connect with this person because you feel safe and you trust them. Children's ability to cope with stress begins with you. Secure attachments with a responsive caregiver is vital to a child's coping mechanism. I really enjoyed this quote. It says, one of the greatest diseases is to be nobody to anybody. One of the ways to be felt heard and seen is when someone that you love and you care turns to you and looks at you and you feel the warmth in their eye, because that's another thing. We're such resilient, miraculous beings that we know when that person is there mentally. We see it. We see it when they leave too. They're there physically, but you can see mentally they're like, did I take out the chicken out of the freezer? Right? They're gone. Children know this as well. And there's nothing more powerful than to know that this person is here right now, completely 100%. All right? That makes you feel like somebody. Check yourself out. See if you are disconnecting sometimes. First step for improvement and building new skills is to be aware. Our brains are wired for connection, but trauma rewires them for protection. And so I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier. And so what happens here is when our needs are not being met and they're stressful and they're accumulating, we start experiencing trauma because it's prolonged. Our chronic stress starts amping up with all these hormones, right? And so what do? We try to protect. And what does protect mean? Means that our safety is threatened. What does that mean? We're somewhere down here in the brainstem. The brainstem says, am I safe? Doesn't feel safe? I'm going to protect. And actually, we are built for emotional connection. And so we're kind of like rewiring not correctly when we are talking about wiring for protection. All right. So we have Gail. She is our second panelist. She has a master's in clinical psychology, and she's a parent coach. She's a mom. She's a grandma. She's an entrepreneur. She's local. She founded Parents Place in 1988. She sits on the board of Birth Network of Monterey. She's a recipient of the Monterey County Outstanding Woman of the Year in 2002. And so here we are. Let me stop sharing so we can see Gail. Hi, Gail, are you there? Let's see.
I think I've clicked right.
There she is. Hi, Gail.
Okay.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Annette. What a wonderful presentation you have developed for this group. It's been just delightful to watch, and I loved hearing and seeing your friend Shakira too, and kudos to her for juggling 3 teenagers and another one at home and teaching first grade. And oh my goodness sakes, I just got stressed even hearing about her life, but then really had things well under control and a lot of skills.
Yes.
A lot of tools. My background has been that of working with parents with small children, particularly during before the baby's even conceived, as well as during pregnancy and birth. And so some of the thoughts that I had to share from a very broad, wonderful presentation that you've made is for anyone in the group who has not yet had a child or who is still planning on having another child, is to do some work on being as informed and quote unquote stress-free as possible when you are looking at that time for possible, I always say open season, that time for conception, because it really is true that when we are conceiving our babies, when we are during the time of pregnancy, our babies know what's going on. They can sense us, they can feel, they get our hormones. So it's unlikely that anyone's going to be unstressed during 9 months of pregnancy, very unlikely. But when there's times when we do feel stress, or times when we lose our temper with an older child, or the times when we're stressed at work, tell your baby it's not about you. I got upset. I yelled at your big brother. I was worried about getting this done for work or whatever it is, but tell your baby it's not about you, because even in utero, those babies are so egocentrical. They think that whatever's going on, they're the ones causing it. They take so much responsibility even before birth. So that was one thing I wanted to point out. If you have friends who are pregnant, can't go give them a hug these days, but drop off a meal, drop off something from Cheesecake Dreamations. You know, those are those little tiny cheesecakes about the size of a silver dollar. Then mama could have that. That would be fine. What's that going to tell her? It's going to tell her that you're thinking about her, that you care about her. Think about the things that you can do to nurture a pregnant mama so that she can continue to grow and nurture the baby that's growing for her. Think about things you can do to support her partner, if she has a partner, so that that partner can be nurtured and cared for and go ahead and nurture the mama. Take childbirth classes, find a doula, research your hospitals where you're having your babies, try to find a place where you can have all the support that you need, which is a lot, so that you can optimize your birth experience. Birthing is a stressful thing. I don't think that there's any of us here who have had babies that would go, yeah, I'll do this tomorrow, sure. We go, oh my God, I have to do this again. But trying, not just saying, oh, well, you know, I've seen my doctor since I was a teenager, we'll just do this. Check things out. One of the resources that Annette has for you in the on her last page is the Birth Network of Monterey County, where you can find out information. I hope I gave that resource to you, Annette. Okay, good. Find out information about providers in our area that might be able to support you in the information gathering process that you need to have. So most of all is just taking care of yourself and being prepared. After that baby comes, that's when our village needs to step in. Any of you, the family, the friends, the neighbors, again, we can't do what we used to do. I would always visit new moms and sit there and fold the clothes while we visited. I wasn't going to just sit there and just, you know, not do anything, or I would do the dishes while she sat there. But drop meals off, you know, figure out what we can do. It takes a little more creativity today, yet we can still figure out those things to do. I wanted to circle back for a minute, Annette. You had mentioned that if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our children. And for so many years, I heard the adage that, you know, if you were in an airplane, that you should always put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I thought, oh my God, no, I can't do that. I'm the mother. I have to take care of my babies. And there were a few times as a military family where I did fly cross country by myself with my 3 children, who were all jammed in together in 4.5 years. So I had babies. They were little. And I thought, oh no, I would, Lord, don't let this happen, but I would put the oxygen mask on them first. And it took me a very long time. I'm sorry to admit that, but it took me a long time to realize, no, I finally got it. I don't know why or how. I finally understood that we put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. And that holds true for forever. That holds true no matter how old our children or our grandchildren are, how old we are. We need to take care of ourselves in order to nurture and support anyone else. I wanted to move a little bit into some of the things that I've always seen how we can help the tools that we use or used to comfort our babies and children when they were stressed, as my children have grown, and I went through a time period before I had grandchildren. Many of those things also help me de-stress, help me be calm. So when our babies were stressed, we would hold them. Everybody has their favorite thing. Mine was the I can't even remember what the carrier was that my girls had, because they don't have it anymore because now they've got other things. But I carried my grandchildren in a Moby wrap and in a sling. I was thrilled to be a grandma and have those babies close to me. My two youngest grandchildren are twins. I figured out how, oh, I was so proud of myself, but I figured out how to put that Moby wrap on and put both babies in there together, because I also couldn't figure out how to hold two babies who were crying at the same time. What I want to say is that when I held my babies and when I've held my grandchildren, when I've held other children, that oxytocin wasn't just going from me to them to calm them. It also calmed me. So the things that help us regulate our children also help regulate us. So using our body to hold, to touch, using our voice. We started out with the shh, and then maybe we moved on to singing. Our babies don't care that we're not Beverly Sills. Our babies have known our voice forever. So singing to them. And many of us find that singing music, we enjoy music, and that if we sing along with the music, particularly if there's no one around to hear us, we can get calm. So I wanted to add that thought about the touch and about singing as ways of helping to bring and control our own stresses. One of my friends' children are quite a bit younger than mine, and her youngest daughter just turned 21. But when that young lady now was about 3 or 4, I was overwhelmed at work. I would call my friend and say, "Is Annabelle free?" And if she was, I'd say, "I'm coming over and taking her for a walk." And I would hold Annabelle's hand, because yes, I had to hold the hand of a 3-year-old, but that meant I got to hold Annabelle's hand. And we would go for a walk. So we were outside. I had some fresh air to breathe, but holding the hand of a 3-year-old, walking around a long block, got me resettled. And I was able then to go, oh, I can now calm down and breathe. I think Annabelle had a good time as well. But for me, it was a very selfish motive when I called and said, "Is Annabelle free? I need to come and take her for a walk." because for me, being around, because I love children so much, being around that 3-year-old always has been a magical, magical thing for me. So also using our body, many of you know this, that when our children get older, if they get unsettled, if they are unregulated, saying, "Hey, you want to read a book?" I mean, we got a lot of years in there about reading with our kids, and then plop them on your lap. Or if they get too big to want to sit on your lap, they sit next to you. So we say, "Oh, you want to read a book?" And yes, they love, who doesn't love being read to? And that brings that whole stress down, but also we've got them right next to our body. So my youngest daughter was a very, very, very busy child. And I would say to her, when I could see that activity level was spiraling and spinning out of control, I would tell her to go run around the courtyard about 5, 10, 15 times. And then when she came in, I could say, let's sit down and read a book. And she was calm enough to sit in my lap or next to me, and we would read. And then she was grounded and ready to go back outside and tussle with the big kids, her 2 big sisters, and whichever other kids were out there in the courtyard playing, and they were not being nice to her or whatever was going on. But I realized that I was using my voice and my body to help her get regulated. I have a small part-time job right now with a family, helping them with distance learning. And there's a 1st grader and a 4th grader. And what the mom forgot to tell me when I interviewed and was hired for the job was that both of these boys have ADHD. Well, it took me about 10 minutes at their house, and I kind of figured that one out. The reason I'm telling you this is what I have found is that when it's time for the youngest one to sit at the computer, which is just an untenable thing for small children to do, to sit at the computer for class, I set him on my lap and we sit and look at the class together, and I can help him to get focused that way. And so I'm just reminding all of you that ways that touch is a wonderful way to nurture and help our bodies co-regulate with each other. As I've been sitting here watching your presentation, my cat saw me sit down. Well, any of you with pets knows what that means. If I sit down, that's a lap available. And so he climbed up on my lap. I had to run, because I'm in a different chair, run and get the little blanket that he sits on my lap so his nails don't ruin my pants. But as I was petting him, as he was settling down, I thought, oh my gosh, we need to add in there when we talk about ways of de-stressing is to take time to spend nurturing our pets and letting them help us get settled. I mean, who does not calm down if you've got a quiet kitty cat or a dog sitting on your lap? Or I don't know, maybe some of you have guinea pigs. My sister loved guinea pigs and had guinea pigs for 25 years. So I was one thing else that I thought of. Another thing, I was listening today to Brene Brown, and I imagine and hope that most of you know who she is. She's a researcher from Texas who has done a lot of a researcher and social worker who's done a lot of work on empathy and vulnerability. And I just found out that she has a CD set or downloadable, series called The Gifts of Imperfect Parenting. And I've been listening to her and absolutely am so grateful for the wisdom and the approach that she has and the skills that she shares about parenting. And again, how all of this fits into our whole picture, because it's not just during COVID that we are stressed when we're parents. I bet you we could have had this same conversation, Annette, this time last year, particularly because we were heading into the holidays, and who doesn't start getting crazy on November 1st? You know, we go, we get through Halloween, and then boom, November and December. And so I always did a talk in my classes for parents in mid-October, talking about how do we figure out how to head into those holidays without being so stressed. Well, we have a different kind of stress this year with the holidays. Of stress is probably not seeing the people that we used to get to see, or if we want to see them, what's safe and how do we do it? And can we have Thanksgiving dinner out at a park, sitting on our blankets 6 feet away? It's so
We're
confusing.
definitely, yeah, we're definitely have to reinvent how we celebrate our holidays, and it can be very stressful. One thing I want to remind everyone is that when we focus on things, how they can possibly work for the benefit of all of us, then we get more of that. So if we focus, for example, you mentioned touch, and you mentioned singing, and you mentioned the lap, the holidays. So when we approach these things in life in a way where you want it to work, and you can almost see it how it's going to work out, it ends up being that way, right? It's like our internal navigation system. It takes us that way. And so very good points, Gail. I'm sorry I have to kind of like go on, but do you have anything else? Okay, good.
Yeah, just
two more things and then we keep going.
The other thing is to add in there the whole, another way of de-stressing is using art. It's not the process, but the product. It's the process, not the product. So if you've got children, or go borrow some children and get a big pan of shaving cream and add some food coloring and a spoon to stir it around. But you know what? It won't take long before your finger will be in there and your whole hands will be in there. The last thing I want to add is making Play-Doh. Oh my God, do I love making Play-Doh with my grandchildren. There's not, and I didn't say playing with Play-Doh, I said making it. Stirring it up in that pan and taking that flour salt mixture while it's warm and rolling it in your hands. I mean, that is just so stress reducing, and squeezing it. I don't have to go buy a stress ball, but those are the things that we can do. So you have been so thorough and covered so many things. Thank you. And it's been a wonderful time being with you. Thanks, Annette.
Thank you, Gail. And I know you have so many techniques and strategies to help soothe and co-regulate. And that's a lovely word, co-regulation, right? So it's not only I'm helping the child regulate, but I'm also regulating myself. And so absolutely, thank you so much, Gail, for sharing. And at the end, I'll have Gail's information up so you guys can reach out and continue to pick her brain. She has a wealth of information. That's one of the many reasons why I invited her tonight. So let's go on to our next slide. Here we go. And so, so look at that. So we are going to continue with the parasympathetic system, everything that Gail was talking about. And I'm hopeful that you guys were able to write a few of these amazing strategies to co-regulate is activating the parasympathetic system. So pretend that you have your accelerator and your brake. The parasympathetic is your brake. The sympathetic system is your accelerator, right? So healing begins now. And how it begins is by enriching our brain with oxygenated blood cells. So Gail mentioned the dancing, not the dancing, the singing, physically getting involved, making Play-Doh, playing with shaving cream. All these things gets you moving. It helps you slow down your breath. We're going to have a few videos to help you understand better breath work and how to control to control our calmness and come back to our rest state. Parasympathetic system actually is considered the rest and digest, right? We activate that. And by doing that, we kind of deactivate the sympathetic nervous system, which is the accelerator, which activates and regulates our fight or flight, all right? So you've done it. You've been here long enough in this toxic stress. It's time to heal. Start pressing your parasympathetic system. And this is how you do it. You're going to notice your breath. You're going to notice your eyes, your jaw. You only have one. Tongue, chest. You're going to notice your belly. And so this is Lindsay Witterer. Hopefully I did pronounce her name correctly. She's the owner of Om Studios, and she's my yoga instructor. And she is a blessing in my life. She is a parent as well. She has 2 young children, and she is managing Om Studios, and she's teaching her children online, so she knows what the struggle is. And she was generous enough to give me a few minutes of herself to share this video with you guys. So here we are sharing this video again. Oh no, it says it cannot be shared. I'm not sure why that is happening. All right, let's move back this way. not sure. I wonder if I exit from here. I did hyperlink it. I'm not going to use the time. I'm sorry, guys. I will try to share this video for big emotions because we're kind of like almost it's 8:30, so I don't want to keep using my time trying to troubleshoot. But let me try one more time just because. Yep, of course. So that's technology. Sorry about that. So she was talking about 3 main exercises. One was feeling your breath while sitting crisscross on the floor. And as your belly rises and your chest rises, you acknowledge that. And then as you inhale and exhale, you feel the rise. The second one was putting your legs up on the, laying on the floor and putting your legs up on the wall. And it's a rest state. 2 or 3 minutes of that is almost like you've taken a nap. And I don't remember the third one, but definitely I'll try to troubleshoot this video. I'm not sure what happened here for our next session, December 2nd. So it's time to heal. You are more likely to practice tools that you have experienced. You are more likely to normalize slowing down to self-care. Often when I say you need to slow down, people are like, I don't have time to slow down. There's so many things to do. Well, when we slow down, we actually increase productivity. Like Gail said, oxygen mask on you first, and then you can help others. Otherwise, you're gasping for air and you're not efficient. Productivity just drops, all right? It's time to heal. You have been mobilized long enough in the survivor mode, and now it's time to slow down. So here we have a diabetic yogi. She's a 200-hour certified yoga instructor. She was trained by Lindsay, and I think all I have to do.
Hello, I'm a diabetic yogi, and I work
We
for
can
Om
hear it,
Studios
thumbs
as
up.
a yoga teacher. Today I'm here to teach you guys how to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural rest and digest process, in order to cultivate a higher sense of self and more positivity in your life. So to begin, we'll start with a few moments of breath work. The first breath work I'm going to teach you is called the Ujjayi breath. The Ujjayi breath is stimulated by a slight contraction of the back of the throat so that your breath begins to sound like ocean waves. I'll show you. The point of this breath is that it triggers a vibrational pull throughout the vagus nerve. This vibration in the vagus nerve actually stimulates neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, opening up receptions, allowing serotonin to flood your system so that you can have more positive thoughts throughout your day. So we'll do some Ujjayi breaths for just a couple of seconds so you feel more comfortable with this type of breathing. To begin, we'll exhale all the air out of the body. Closing the mouth, inhale through the nose. Keeping that slight contraction at the back of the throat to exhale through the nose. And continuing on with that contraction in the back of the throat. Allowing the belly to expand and pulling the navel towards the spine on that exhale. Once more, inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Now you continue this type of breathing throughout any moment of your day, sitting or standing. It will just help to stimulate that acetylcholine neurotransmitter. And now for some other breath work. This breath work also stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system by allowing your mind and body to simply slow down, slowing down the heart rate, your blood pressure, any passing thoughts. The point of this breath work I'm going to teach you, it's called the yogic breath, a 4-part yogic breath. It's supposed to allow yourself to utilize breath in order to come into the present moments, letting go of any thoughts and simply just immersing yourself in your body, in your presence, in your breath. So I'm going to demonstrate to begin before we start together. We'll exhale all the air out of the body And you can be in a comfortable seated position. If you find trouble in trying to bring your awareness solely to the breath and you find that thoughts are just constantly coming at an excessive rate, I know for me, I like to place one hand on my chest and one hand on my belly. It allows me to gain further body awareness. So we'll exhale all the air out of the body to begin. And inhale, allowing the belly to expand, feeling that chest rise up at the top, and holding that breath on the top of the inhalation. And on the exhale, we'll feel the chest drop, the belly pulls back, and we'll hold at the end of that exhalation. And so now we're going to do this together. I invite you to close the eyes down, removing the sense of seeing, allowing yourself to come inward. And if this doesn't feel safe to you, just keeping the gaze soft, perhaps slow, just directly in front of you. And so we'll continue this type of breath for just several rounds here. So exhale all the air out of the body. Inhale, feeling the belly expand, chest rise, holding at the top of that inhalation. And exhale, the chest drops. And you feel the belly pull back. Hold at the end of that exhalation. Inhale, belly expands. Chest rises. Hold. Exhale, chest drops. Belly pulls back. Hold at the end of that exhalation. Inhale, belly expands. Chest rises. Hold. Maybe take one more sip of air here. An open mouth exhale, allowing yourself to feel both the chest drop and the belly pull back. I always like to end that breath work with a nice sigh on that last exhale. Thank you for joining me.
So I hope you enjoyed that relaxing time. I did. I practiced it. I feel a little more calm and ready to carry on. So body language. The important part here in teaching is to lighten up and relax. We tend to hold a lot of tension. And when we do that, we resist. And therefore, we become less receptive to learning and relaxing. So your body is very wise and is constantly giving you information about how you're feeling and how you're handling it as well. The feelings of overwhelmed and fatigue limits our ability to access our body's internal intelligence. Yes, you have a navigation system and internal intelligence that tells you which way you're going, right? It's called intuition. Sometimes it's felt in your gut, right? It's a gut feeling, right? So slowing down and listening allows you to access this internal intelligence. And by activating the parasympathetic system, you have more access to this navigation system. It's time to reconnect and it's time to thrive. So body posture is interesting because there's been studies, actually Amy Cutting, she has a TED Talk that talks about body posture and the power of being able to hold the posture for about 2 minutes. And with her study, she actually realized that there's an increase of testosterone and a decrease of cortisol. And with these two hormones interplaying as we're doing body posture, what we learn is that with the testosterone, we gain confidence, we have more assertiveness, and we're a little more relaxed. And it decreases cortisol, which we already have really explored what cortisol does in high levels in our body. So you experience less anxiety and less mental fog. And so she, in her TED Talk, she shared these 3 images. And so there's the Wonder Woman stand, right? So you can practice that now if you like, because you're more likely to repeat behaviors that you do more of. So the Wonder Woman stand, right? The Beyonce stand. And then the middle picture, she was trying to prove a point of how we have this incredible ability to just see other people's posture and get a reading of what they're thinking and feeling. So you be the judge of what you think this man is thinking and what this woman is thinking. So we'll have diabetic yogi shows about how to root your body and find stability, and again, activating our sense of body posture.
Hello, I'm a diabetic yogi working for Om Studios as a yoga teacher, and I'm here to teach you guys some grounding postures in order to root your root chakra. And now, so these poses not only work to root your root chakra, but they also align with what's considered your power poses. Power poses are those poses that help you think positively about yourself and your surroundings. And now, with that alignment of those two, we also know that when you have a balanced root chakra, all the other chakras in your body can reach alignment, but it starts with the root. So, to begin, we'll start in a kneeling position. You can stay on your chair, or if that feels comfortable, or come onto the floor. I always like to be on the floor for some grounding postures. So now we'll come into a kneeling position, allowing the sit bones to rest on top of the heels. You can place the palms directly on top of your thighs, just so you feel more grounded. And now the gaze can either be low directly in front of you, or perhaps closing the eyes, allowing the chin to just bow slightly towards the chest. The goal here is to relax the back of the neck, allowing the spine to relax. Just begin to breathe. You can set yourself a timer for about 3 to 5 minutes, allowing this to be a break throughout your day. And so that's the first pose for this grounding sequence. And now, if you feel like you need some grounding in your life, but you've been sitting for way too long, I invite you to stand here. And so you can see my bottom half of the body right now, right? So in order to root the root chakra from standing, I invite you to lift your toes and then firmly spread them, pressing them onto the ground in front of you. We'll engage the thighs so that they lift out of the kneecaps, allowing the spine to straighten. The palms will face directly in front of you. And now you're going to engage the abdomen, engaging that core, allowing the belly to sip up and in towards the spine. The chest will expand towards the sky in front of you. Gaze can be up towards the clouds, towards your ceiling, wherever you are. Or you can also just close the eyes down. And in this posture, it's called mountain pose. It's not only does it root the root chakra and allow you to feel the sensation of groundedness, while also feeling uplifted and positive. I always like to breathe here, thinking about my feet, my legs, my core, my mind, my head, my body, and finding gratitude for the ability to stand right here, right now. Thank you for joining me for those two grounding postures in order to feel rooted in yourself, in your life, in your body. Thank you so much.
So we ask ourselves, am I okay? So if you think you're okay and you have the perfect balance between both the activation of the parasympathetic and sympathetic system, then you are not, or you will not be experiencing the following, which is insomnia, anxiety causing self-doubt, racing thoughts, depression causing isolation, feeling worthless, digestive problems, overeating, undereating, unconscious eating, not a regular bathroom schedule, etc. Disorganized thoughts without a pattern that doesn't make any sense, breathing heavily often and making loud sounds when you sit down or you stand up from your chair, feeling ill, your muscles are sore. So these symptoms equal dysregulation. And so you can be on overdrive and not even notice it because your high levels of stress hormones have become habitual in your life. Your disorganized racing thoughts have become habitual in your life. All right. This is what Nadine Brooke Harris talks about. She talks about the disruptions of feedback disruption. It breaks because we are in toxic stress. If we don't catch ourselves, then we continue this vicious cycle. right? Stress response is a body thermostat and that we kind of gauge and find out where we need to come back to calmness. But if it's part of the way we're living now, we don't realize that it's too much. We need to back up again. So if you're dysregulated, guess who else is? Yeah, your children. So there's something called the parenting antenna. And so children are always watching all the time. This process of children watching every move you make is called the parenting antenna. And it's because mirror neurons allow us to learn through imitations. It's constantly enabling us to reflect on body language, facial expression, and emotions, right? So that's an example I was saying earlier about yawning, right? Another one could be someone eating a piece of chocolate cake and you're looking and you're like, you start salivating, right? Your body is almost experiencing exactly that experience, but it's not you. You're looking at someone. So imagine what that means. What are the implications of this if our children can see and witness acts of compassion and love and empathy? They're more likely to repeat those behaviors as well because they experience it themselves through mirror neurons. I do have this video. It's a little bit on the longer side, and I'm afraid we may not have time for it. This is being recorded, however, and so I invite you tomorrow. You should be getting the recorded link. I invite you to go ahead and check out this video. Ram, he is a neuroscientist. He does his work in San Diego, and he is fascinated with what mirror neurons does for us. He's fascinated with how complex our behaviors are, but yet with mirror neurons, we have this ability to be able to learn from other individuals' experiences as if they were ours. So I'm not going to play the video tonight, but I do invite you to go ahead and check out that link tomorrow and get to this slide and enjoy the video. The presentation that he has is about 15 minutes, and that's why I'm not playing it now, because I respect your time. I don't want to go over our time. So just a quick check. Soften your forehead, unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders. This is a reminder to stop holding tension in your body. I found this image very interesting, and I wanted to share with you. The statue of a son was made from the pieces removed from the statue of the father. And this is a representation of what parents do to build the lives of their children. What are the pieces that you are giving your children to build them? Are those the pieces you want your children to be built from? And know that you are a survivor. I thought this was funny to share. You survived the great toilet paper crisis of 2020 because humor is a gateway to emotional connection. Do not forget that. Don't take yourself too seriously. What have you learned in this journey? You have learned the difference between stress, trauma, collective trauma. You've learned about change and improvement begins with you before your children can start seeing that change and feeling it. The awareness of toxic stress in your body and what your body is telling you, ways to rescue yourself and your family. So it's time to heal, relax, improve, be vibrant, and empathize. For the next two webinars, I'm going to talk a little bit more about building empathy. What does that really mean, and how do we build it for ourselves and onto others as well? It's time to thrive, guys. We've done the surviving. We're moving forward. It's time to thrive 2021. I want to give a special thanks to Monterey Peninsula College for making this happen. I'm humbled. I'm so grateful. So special thanks to David Martin. He's the superintendent president of the college. John Coe, the VP of Academic Affairs. Kendra Cabrera, she was at the beginning, the interim dean of Instruction, Career, and Education. Emily Mitchell, woo woo! Emily, thank you. I'm nobody without her. She's the administrative assistant. Lindsay Werderl, she's the owner of OM Studios. Annabelle Oswald, the diabetic yogi. Shakira Oswald, she was one of our panelists. And Gail Root, she was another panelist that we had here. The last slide, last and final, guys, you did it. So we got the local resources. We have Summit Health Services. We have California Children's Services. We have medical, child adolescent health, Monterey's Family to Family, Parents Place in PG, Monterey County Maternal Mental Health, First Five Monterey, Please do not rush to write these numbers down. Remember, you're receiving a link tomorrow with this presentation, so you can access this information again and review the different parts that we have reviewed today. With that, I believe that's the end of this slide presentation. And I just want to say thank you again for giving me this opportunity. Have a good night, everyone. Take care of each other, and I will see you soon. Be well, please.